Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our brand new series called Breaking Briere, the YouTube series where we're going deep on every single move Flyers general manager Danny Briere has pulled off to this point. From blockbusters to those under the radar moves, we're rating each one from 1 to 10 and giving you a full 360-degree view. This isn't speculation, this is cold hard trade analysis, Philly style. And in episode 1, we're starting with the first domino, the first official trade of the Danny Briere era, the one that told the NHL the rebuild is on, the Ivan Provorov trade. Let's rewind for a second. To really understand this trade, we need to go back, not to June 2023, but to 2015. That's when the Flyers selected Ivan Provorov 7th overall in the NHL draft. The organization believed they had a future number one defenseman, a cornerstone on the back end, and for a time, it looked like that might be true. Provorov was logging monster minutes, over 25 a night. He played in every situation imaginable: power play, penalty kill, last-minute shutdown roles. He even scored 17 goals in his second season. That's rarefied air for a defenseman. For a while, he looked like the real deal. But after 2019, something just wasn't right. Whether it was changing defensive partners from Matt Niskanen to Justin Braun to Tony DeAngelo, or a mismatch within coaching systems, or simply just stagnation in his game, Provorov never quite took that next leap. He became a workhorse, yes, but not a true number one. Not in the way the Flyers had envisioned. And in Philadelphia, where expectations are as high as the Rocky Steps, that was a problem. Now let's fast forward to 2023. Danny Briere has barely settled into the GM chair. His message is clear. This isn't going to be a tweak to the roster operation. This is going to be a rebuild. And he kicks it off with a bang. On June 6, 2023, the Flyers struck a 3-team deal with the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Los Angeles Kings. And this one was complex. Ivan Provorov goes to Columbus, and in return, the Flyers got a bundle: goalie Cal Petersen, defenseman Sean Walker, promising Swedish prospect Helge Grans, and a first-round pick in 2023, and 2 second-round picks in 2024. Oh, and they tossed in Kevin Connaughton and Hayden Hodgson to Los Angeles to help balance the books. The Kings retained 30% of Provorov's salary to make it all work. Now let's unpack the return. The headline at the time was that Provorov was being moved, but quietly Sean Walker ended up being one of the most valuable assets in this deal. A right-handed defenseman who had struggled with injuries, Walker bounced back in a big way once he got to Philly. He played big minutes, handled all situations, and became a key piece for the Flyers on their blue line. But more importantly, and this is key, Walker's play increased his trade value. Fast forward a little bit to the 2024 trade deadline, and Danny Briere flipped him to Colorado for a first-round pick. That's right. They got a first-rounder for a guy that a lot of people thought of as essentially just a throw-in. Then there's Cal Petersen. This wasn't about goaltending. It was about money. The Kings needed to shed Petersen's bloated contract, and Briere said, sure, we'll take him if you pay the toll. Petersen barely played in Philadelphia. He spent most of his time buried in the AHL. But the real value was in using the Flyers' cap space to squeeze extra assets out of LA. Smart cap management. Next up is Helge Grans, a 6'3" Swedish defenseman with some raw tools. He's still a project, but he moves well for his size and has a decent shot. Whether he ends up panning out or not is still up in the air, but it's a worthwhile swing for a team trying to rebuild its blue line depth. And now we get to the meat of the deal, the picks. That 2023 first-round pick, the Flyers used it to select Oliver Bonk. Yeah, Radek's kid. Bonk's been lighting it up for the London Knights in the OHL. He's got size, skating, poise, and a hockey IQ that stands out. He's already tracking to be a top 4 NHL defenseman in the not-so-distant future. The Flyers also acquired 2 2024 second-round picks. Now think about all of that. One declining defenseman, at least while he was with the Flyers, and Ivan Provorov, was turned into a starting defenseman who was flipped for another first, a goalie that was more of a cap dump but provided depth in Lehigh Valley, a right-shot defensive prospect, a first-round pick used on a rising defenseman, and 2 second-rounders. Not bad. That's not just a trade. That's a strategic pivot. This is more than just asset shuffling. It was a declaration of intent. The Flyers were no longer going to play it safe. They were going to leverage every tool they had, including cap space, prospect development, and trade flexibility to reshape the roster. Briere's predecessor, Chuck Fletcher, never pulled off a move like this. Not with this kind of foresight. Not with this kind of execution. Fast forward a few years later, and this trade already looks like a win. Provorov has continued to be what he's always been, a minute muncher, but with flaws. He didn't take off in Columbus. He didn't reinvent himself. He's still solid, but no longer untouchable. Meanwhile, the Flyers have bonk rising and already cashed in on Sean Walker's value. So where does this deal fall on our brand new Breaking Briere scale? It wasn't a perfect deal. Peterson was still a terrible contract. Grant is far from a sure thing, but you judge trades just not by what they were, but what they unlocked. This trade set the tone. It was Briere's first chess move, and he didn't just trade for a player. He extracted value, built flexibility, and changed the organization's direction. So what should the final score of the Ivan Provorov trade be? I'm going to give it an 8.8 out of 10. My reasons for that are this. For Ivan Provorov, Danny Briere acquired pick, player, prospect. That's quite a bit for an Ivan Provorov. The player being Sean Walker, who they ended up flipping later on for a first. The prospect being Helge Grants, who right side defensive depth in the organization, former second round pick. And the pick, which ended up being Oliver Bonk, also a right side defenseman who, as mentioned, could be a top 4 pairing defenseman in the future. Stay tuned for the next episode of Breaking Briere next week when we discuss what happened with Kevin Hayes. And did he have his hands all over the Cutter-Gauthier trade? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, tap that bell, and stick with us for all things Flyers. This has been the first episode of our new series, Breaking Briere. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on HW Hockey. Bye-bye.